Welcome back. AJ here with ProLine. In the last video in this series, we worked on adding pages to our quote template and kind of just populating out those pages and customizing them to a certain extent. In this video, we're going to actually build out our options and upgrades with the line items for each one, so that ProLine knows how to price these. We're going to connect the dots here, so to speak. We'd worked on our price list before. We worked on the quote, the quantity calculations for all those price list items. Now it's time to pull those price list items onto our quote, into the options, into the upgrades, to connect all those dots together. So it's coming together. We're going to start here at good shingle. As I said before, we're not going to add good, better, best yet. We're going to completely finish good, and then we're going to go and expand that into better and best, since there's a lot of similarities between them. So let's start building this out. First, we're going to need a shingle line item. So we're going to find our generic shingle good. Add that. First line item. Now we're going to need some starter. So do we have generic? Did we add starter? Maybe not. I thought we had added starter. Maybe not. Well, and this happens sometimes. Maybe you don't. Maybe you forget something. You have to go back and add it. I was pretty sure we added starter though. See starter? I guess not. Okay. So add price for generic starter. 75. Or no, we need bundle. I don't know why. Yeah, bundle. Okay, perfect. Now we're gonna go back and generic roof replacement, good shingle, starter. Now we're going to add ice and water. Now hip and ridge. Underlayment. Ridge vent. Drip edge. Coil nails. We had that test, but I'm just going to pull in the normal one. OSB board. I was watching that video I was talking about OSB board for the minimum quantities, the earlier video in this series, and I think I started saying USB board halfway through. Again, exposing myself as not an actual roofer. I'm a software guy. Definitely not USB. Definitely OSB. All right, pipe boots. Want regular 4-in-1. Add line item. Plastic cap nails or staples. We like plastic cap nails though. Okay, touch up paint. And then we have installation labor. And of course, everybody charges differently for labor. This is the way my co-founder does it. He just pays his subs by the square. So he only needs one line item. But if you do have a more complex way of charging for labor, you need to have different line items for all those different labor charges. And you would add those here. So that covers everything for, I think if I was actually building this for, if this is for my roofing company, there's probably some other items I would put in here. Steep slope, dumpster charges, but we'll keep it simple. This is be a very simple example. not necessarily covering everything, but it's an example of what can be done. And so we have all these line items here. And so let's take a look at these icons here on the edge. You can move these. So if you want to reorder your line items, you can do that easily. And then over here on the right, we have these 4 icons. The first one we already went over before is for the quantity calculation editor. Generally, you're just going to want to leave this selected and let ProLine use the defaults from your price list, unless it's a very special case. The second icon here is for replacing the line item, and this is going to be very useful here in a moment as we duplicate out this option. So we'll get to that, but this does allow you to choose a different line item or a different price item from your price list and swap it out for this line item. So rather than having to add a new line item and then delete the old line item, which wouldn't be the biggest deal in the world, but this just makes it a little bit faster to sort of swap things out on the fly in an option or an upgrade without having to go through all the trouble of deleting and then adding and all that. Then we have this little eyeball here, which is the ability to show or hide from the prospect on the quote. So quotes generated with this quote template, showing or hiding this line item. Now, hiding it does not remove its cost from the quote. All it does is just keep it from being exposed to the prospect when they look at the quote. So for things like OSB board, where it's just not a productive conversation typically to try to educate a homeowner on what OSB board is and why it's important, you can just click that button and it is now hidden from the quote. Still going to factor into the price, but it is not a line item on the quote that's going to be visible to the prospect. And of course, there's a lot of these things that you probably don't need to list out. Usually the things that you're going to list out are going to be the branded items. So all of these things that are generic typically are not going to be generic. Typically they're going to be branded. So if you're with Atlas, all of these are going to be Atlas products. That is generally what you're going to want to expose on a quote for retail. It's a little bit different if you're doing something for insurance, but ultimately it's our opinion that if your quote for insurance should be an Xactimate, and so maybe you do your contract through ProLine, but generally you're not even going to go through this process for an insurance job. But for retail, that's really the only thing you need to expose to the prospect is the branded stuff, so that you can build value around that on your sales presentations and in your quote and make and just narrow in on those. Lastly, of course, we have the ability to just delete a line item. And so that's what this last button here does. Over here on the right, there's some more options. One of them is the duplicate option, which is what we're about to use to duplicate this out and make our better and best options. This allows you to swap an option and turn it into an upgrade or vice versa. There's different cases where you might need this. It's usually not going to be in roofing, but maybe here's an example. Maybe you want to have a standalone gutter quote, and so you want to just duplicate your existing roof replacement quote, delete the options, change the gutter upgrade into an option. And it's really kind of a thing that just sort of helps with the configuration when you're duplicating and moving stuff around. And then lastly, you have another visibility option for the option as a whole. So for an option or an upgrade as a whole, you can hide the entire thing from the quote, except for on the signature page. It's still factored into the quote. If you want to disable something, we do have this button where you can completely disable this page, and so it will not show up anywhere. But if you leave that selected and then just use the hide button, this will keep the page from appearing on the end quote, but still have it show up as an option on the signature page for them to select. The main use case for this is if you do want to have a much more custom quote built out in ProLine. We use one of our third-party partners or consultants to build out custom graphics for you, and you want to have these really cool custom pages for your good, better, and best option, or you want to display them all on one page, or however you want to do that. You don't want ProLine's default page for options, even though it looks great. I'm a little biased, but I think it looks great. But even you wouldn't want those to appear on the quote in those cases. So you would hide it and then just have the custom page appear. So that's the use case there. So let's close this. Or actually, let's go ahead and duplicate it. So we're going to duplicate good. You can actually duplicate things into a different template entirely. So I can select a different template here from my list, and then I can push this duplicate there, but I'm just going to do it on the original template. So I'm going to duplicate, and then we'll see that now that is down here at the bottom. So I'm going to drag this up. I'm going to do it one more time. Drag that up. Now I have 3 good options. I'm going to rename this. Oh no, this is the good one. Good, better, and best. And I'm going to use that line item replace tool, and I'm going to look for generic shingle better. Boom. Good to go. Let me do the same thing for best. Perfect. Now, the last thing, I'm going to go over this. I'm not going to do this on this generic quote, but you do have the option to upload either a custom image here, and this appears as a banner at the top of the option page in between the title. So this would show at the very top. As well as we put the price at the top, and we're gonna look at this. Like once this is all done, we're gonna generate a quote with it. But we can add a banner, image banner that was designed outside of ProLine in here if you want, completely optional. And then you can also add a description. So what we've seen companies do is they'll pull in usually some images from the manufacturer. So they'll take an image or a banner from the manufacturer they're working with, pull that in here into the option page, and then they'll take some text from the manufacturer's website or something about this product and put it in the description here. And you're also welcome to put other information here about your process or whatever you think will help you to make this option more appealing to the prospect. So you have those options here as well. We're not going to dig into that for this template since it's just a generic template, but that is available to you. So we have a good, better, and best options now. Now, what if you want to completely change the way you have this option laid out? The best way to do that, I just want to address it because it is a question that does come up sometimes. These are 3 different options with 3 different sets of quote line items. So if you make changes to this one, it's not going to apply to this one. However, the easiest way to do that, if you're really making substantial changes, would be to make edits to this good option, delete the other 2, and then duplicate it again. So just do what we just did, duplicate, replace. It really depends on how substantial the changes are that you're making. If you're just adding like 1 additional line item, it's pretty easy to do that 3 times. But if you're adding 5 line items and changing a bunch of stuff, you might want to just go through that process again of building one out and then duplicating it twice. Let's now go down to our lifetime pipe boots and gutters. So I'm just going to do this the way my co-founder does it. He has a sub that does gutters that just charges by the linear foot. So we have a gutters line item that is just calculated based on the linear foot. Let me see, M6 eaves, calculated based on the linear foot of eaves. So yeah, his sub just charges per 15 linear feet, and so that's what that calculation is. And so that's all that we need for that upgrade. And then for lifetime pipe boots, we'll pull those in. And I'm not sure what the calculation is for that. That may or may not be right for this demo account, but that's C1 total square divided by 10. So I guess this is saying you'll need a minimum of 3, and then for every 10 square, so if it's a 40 square roof, you're going to need 4. But this is customizable once you actually are generating the quote. So that's just what's going to load by default, and then whoever's building out the quote would then find out exactly how many are needed for that roof, if that's possible, and then make sure the right number's in there. And that's it. So the upgrades here, you do have that option again to put in the banner, put in the description. But upgrades are, except for when the quote's being signed, they do appear differently on the quote and on the signature page. But as far as building out, upgrades and options are basically the same thing. So you have the same options here, all the same tools here at your disposal to build these out. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. So we did reorder line items. Yeah, so we have covered everything here. And so yeah, that is how to build out your options and your upgrade pages. And we've connected all the dots now. And we're going to go over, this next video is going to be going over settings. So down here, we're going to customize all these settings. But that's really the final touches. We've connected everything back to those measurement fields. Remember in the first video, we had the measurement fields. We're connecting those into the formulas. We've now pulled the price list items, which have the formulas associated with them, into our quote on these options and upgrades. So it's all connected now. And we could, these settings do change a lot of things, so we want to go over those first. But we can just go and generate a quote now with this template, and it would spit out a price for us based on whatever values are in those measurement fields. And so I'm going to hold off on that because I want to do what we're going to do. Next video will be the quote template settings, and then there will be a final video where we actually generate the quote. So we'll have the reveal at the end. So I will see you on the next video to look at the quote template settings.